recent court case, a copy shop owner was accused of violating copyright law when in the preparation of course packs, materials copied from books and journals and packaged as readings for particular university courses, he copied materials without obtaining permission from or paying sufficient fees to the publishers. As the owners of 5 small copy shops serving several educational institutions in the area, he argued, as have others in the photocopy business, that the current process for obtaining permission is time-consuming, cumbersome, and expensive. He also maintained that course packs, which are ubiquitous in higher education, allow professors to assign important readings in books and journals too costly for students to be expected to purchase individually. While the use of copyrighted material for teaching purposes is typically protected by certain provisions of copyright law, this case was unique in that the copying of course packs was done by a copy shop and at a profit.
Okay, so first takeaways. Do you have a main point for this passage? Do you have major opinions? What is going on in this first paragraph?
So I guess just pointing out issues that people have with the course packs that are being made.
Who has issues?
Well, is it the owner of 5 small copy shops or no?
Is he the one who has a problem with course packs?
No.
Okay.
Hold on. I don't really. Oh. Is it? It's not the educational institutions.
So
I don't really know.
The photocopy bit, the people in the photocopy business.
Exactly. Yeah. So the publishers. The publishers are the one who have an issue with this. Do we have any opinions or ideas or thoughts that we're bringing up, Giovanna? I know you.
Well, the biggest problem is they're saying in universities, yes, they make copies, but these coffee shops are making a profit. So that's where the problem comes in. They don't have a problem if they weren't making a profit. But their argument is that, yes, we have a problem because you are making a profit at these coffee shops.
Yeah, and and here they're saying that this is a violation of copyright law. You're just using our material.
Yes.
Exactly. So what does the copy shop owner say? What is he arguing?
He argues that it's expensive for students, so he's helping them out.
Yeah. So what else? So why else is he what else is he saying is his reason or why what he's doing is okay or legal, more importantly, legal? Imani, I know you just jumped in.
You're saying why he's doing his reason? Trying to go back in.
Yeah.
Well, back to where you underlined it. It's time consuming, cumbersome, and expensive to get the permission prior to copying it.
Does he have any other reasoning, or is this his primary one?
He's saying the journals are too expensive for them to purchase individually.
Yes, exactly. That is definitely true. Is there any other reasoning he gives to essentially the court as to why this is legal?
He said others in the photocopy business as have others.
Yeah. So he's saying that I'm just going to jump in here. He's saying that it is allowed in course packs are allowed in higher education. So that's what it says afterwards. And so students are not expected to purchase these things individually, and it's protected. So course packs are protected in other cases. So he's suggesting that he's also protected under this same rule. Besides the fact that he also the process is a pain. Okay, so how about Atusa? Why don't you try this next paragraph? So anyways, we get an introduction to the case, and then we have an introduction, and then we have the copy shop owners opinion. So we have one side. Okay.
So, copyright law outlines several factors involved in determining whether the use of copyrighted material is protected, including whether it is for commercial or nonprofit purposes, the nature of the copyrighted work, the length and importance of the excerpt used in the relation to the entire work, and the effect of its use on the work's potential market value. So all of those are what it includes. In bringing suit, the publishers held that other copy shop owners would cease paying permission fees, causing the potential value of the copyrighted works of scholarship to diminish. So the fees or the value went down because he didn't pay the fees or something, yeah. Nonetheless, the court decided that this reasoning did not demonstrate that course packs would have a sufficiently adverse effect on the current or potential market of the copyrighted works or on the value of the copyrighted works themselves. Okay. The court instead ruled that since the copies were for educational purposes, the fact that the copy shop owner had profited from making the course packs did not prevent him from receiving protection under the law. Okay, so he's not protected under the law. According to the court, the owner had not exploited copyrighted material because his fee was not based on the content of the works he copied. Okay, he charged by the page regardless of whether the content was copyrighted.
Okay, so what opinions do we have here? So what is happening in this paragraph?
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So basically, there are several factors that they included within what's protected for the copyrighted material.
Okay.
And then they listed them. And then they basically said that this guy is, or the copy shop owner had profited from the course packs, but he's not protected under the law.
Oh, it said it didn't prevent him from receiving protection under the law.
So he was protected under the law?
Yeah, did not. It's saying that like he's protected under the law regardless of whether or not regardless, despite the fact that he had like made money off of the course packs.
See, I interpreted that entirely incorrectly.
Yeah, definitely that's a careful, did not prevent him. But don't worry, because the thing is, like, you find out later on that even if you miss that, you know that like it did not demonstrate a sufficient adverse effect. So essentially the court is telling us that they're ruling in favor of the copy shop owner. So he has to have been protected under the law for them to rule in his favor, essentially. Yes, anything else here? Any other thoughts? Does anyone else have any other thoughts for this paragraph? No? Okay, I'm gonna kind of give you a little mini rundown of what I think of what's happening in this paragraph, because you definitely want to break it down as much as you can. Otherwise, you're just gonna get lost and find it difficult to find things. For the first one, we get an introduction of the case and we get the copy shop owner's opinion. Here, we zoom out, right? Copyright law, not copyright laws pertains to this case, but copyright law in general. They tell us, the author tells us why things are protected, all the kinds of different factors that are involved in deciding whether it is protected or not protected. And then so they talk about the use in terms of potential market value. And then they say about its purposes and the market value. And both of those ideas are also discussed further down. The publisher's opinion is discussed. We know that the publisher says that it is a problem because of their potential market. It might ruin it in the future with other copy shop owners. And finally, we get the opinion of the court, which has ruled in favor of the copy shop owner. So we have background about copyright law, we have the publisher's opinion as to what's happening, and then we have the court's final ruling. If you can figure all of that out, you can kind of jump back in here, even if you're kind of struggling with it. Just kind of want to have broad understanding of what's happening, so then you can find the details after that. Yeah? Cool. Let's try the next paragraph. How about Allison?
Sure. So in the court's view, the business of producing and selling course packs is more properly seen as the exploitation of professional copying technologies and a result of the inability of academic parties to reproduce printed materials efficiently, not the exploitation of these copyrighted materials themselves. The court held that copyright laws do not prohibit professors and students who may make copies for themselves. From using the photo reproduction services of a third party in order to obtain the same copies at a lesser cost.
Yes. Perfect. Yep, there it is. Cool. Yeah, so what's happening here, Allison?
So I believe that they're breaking down the court's view and citing evidence as to why they believe so.
Okay, so what is their reasoning?
So they're interpreting the business of producing and selling course packs. Mm-hmm. So they're analyzing how it should be viewed. So they state exploitation of professional copying technologies as one of them. Mm-hmm. And the inability of academic parties to reproduce printed materials. And then they state that copyright laws do not prohibit professors. So using the law to indicate what is not prohibited.
Okay. So ultimately, what is like their main decision about like what he's doing? Like, why is it okay? Like, what's the main reason why it's okay that he did what he did? The copy shop owner.
In general, like, or specifically
what the copy shop owner did. Like, why is that protected by the law, according to the court? Like, what is their main reason?
The photo reproduction services of a third party. That part of it.
The third party, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure what else.
That's okay. Does anyone else want to take a stab at that?
Is it that people could make their own copies anyway, so there's not really
exactly
much ground to go against the copy whatever?
Yeah, basically they're like, yeah, if professors and universities just did this on their own and then sold it to their students, if students just printed it out and then they they went to a copy shop, gave them the material, and then from there they if they like a student took and then printed out 30 pages and then got it bound, that would be the exact same price. So it's basically the same, and then that is not illegal. So why would this be illegal? Because it's just done a little ahead of time. Does that make sense? Anyone have questions about this paragraph or this passage as a whole, or the structure of how this passage is created? No? Does anyone want to talk about broadly what is happening in the structure of the passage? You don't need to just do it by paragraph. You can kind of break it down a little bit more than that if you need to. Anyone interested in trying that? No?
I don't know. I'm really bad at this, but I'll go if no one else.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I guess, introducing what are they? The pack,
Course packs.
yes. So it's introducing, I guess, what a course pack is. I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't have agreed to this.
No, you
It's
got
identifying what a course pack is, and I guess the issues surrounding it or why people kind of question it. And then at the end, it's just kind of giving a reason as to why it's okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I would actually say that the way this is structured is by opinion, right? Like rather than saying like there's these ideas and those ideas, the way they're kind of breaking things up is by like different opinions. Or the way I would break it up, because
Okay.
that's how you can kind of get chunks. It's essentially they're telling the opinion of the coffee shop owner, why what he's doing, why he did what he did, why this is an interesting case, and then a broad picture of what copyright law protects and doesn't protect, and then the publisher's view, the court's view, and then ultimately why the court made the decision that they did. So it's just literally, it's a court, they're introducing this idea, why it's being brought up in the first place, and then they're giving a bunch of opinions leading to why the court came to the decision that they did. That's basically all the structure is. Nothing really more than that. You don't need to get too into like the details, into the weeds about what is happening. Yeah, so, and that should kind of get you a sense of like main point of the passage. Why don't you guys try this and then we can kind of talk about it.
Try what?
Oh, question number 1. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
You can, yeah, and then send it into the chat. I'm gonna wait. So each of you send what your answer is and then we'll talk about it. Start from there. Not too bad. Waiting for a few more and then let's talk about this. Okay, I think all of you guys have answered. You can send it to me privately, by the way. I think some of you guys were struggling with a couple of these. So let's try to get rid of the ones that none of you guys said that you were struggling with. Hold on, let me look at the chat. Yeah, so let's go through here. So Nikki, why did you say that it wasn't B? Yeah, we're gonna skip over A. Yeah, why were you saying that it was B? Why did you say it wasn't B?
I said that it wasn't B because I didn't think that B captured the entire scope of what the article was speaking about.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Yeah, what about E? How about Alice? Allison, why don't you try E? Like why E was wrong?
I don't think it explicitly stated exceptions to what it's used for regarding educational purposes. I think the example was within an academic setting and educational purposes, but not explicitly like using that as justification.
Yeah, so E like is mentioned, but it is not the main point. The main point is about the case, which is about one specific kind of exception, not generally exceptions. Yeah. How about, okay, so Atusa, why don't you tell me why you were kind of struggling between A and C? I think that's what you said. A or D?
Yeah, I don't know. I really liked A, and then I kept on reading, and I liked how sweet and short D was.
Do you feel like it completely encapsulates what is being said, though? That's more important than shortness.
I mean, I guess not because of the way you said that. I would say A then.
Okay, but like, but more importantly, you thought it was short and you thought that A and D were basically saying the same thing, is what you felt?
I mean, I liked A more. I was just between the two.
Okay. Does
May I
anyone
say, may I say something to Aunt?
go
When
ahead?
when I saw D, it was one of the I used it as a premise. It states it, but it wasn't necessarily my conclusion. I mean, they talked about it in the passage. Recent ruling of the coach to seek to make courts. I mean, that was part of the background information of the passage, but that wasn't the conclusion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
so this is kind of what happens, right? They
right,
are
right,
limited.
right,
This is like why
right,
it limits this is what the ruling does,
right.
but like it
But
doesn't say why,
yes, it
and
was
why
it
is
was
very important. Exactly.
exactly.
Perfect. That's a beautiful answer. And then C, I know someone else was struggling with C, so I was wondering what you were thinking.
I feel like you see, but after reading it, I feel like it's a little too specific. I don't think that it's the overall main point. But the reason why I was hesitant about A was because the second part of but it rather legally exploits the efficiency of professional photocopying technology. I was a little
Skeptical of
not
that?
100% skeptical, and then I guess because I can do the control F, I wanted to like B maybe where that was again, and it would have taken probably too long.
Yeah, and this is an
Reread
A
everything.
sentence one, so you don't really want to be using like Control F for something like
Okay.
this too much. You want to be very careful about that. For C, it's kind of saying it's telling you like these are the factors. The factors are like you're talking about that in terms of the beginning of the second paragraph, right? And then it's talking about how like the use, but that's not really like a main point of like how the course packs are used. It has to do with like why the law protects this person versus other people. So you need to get like what is happening here and why is it happening. So so A does that, right? Does anyone want to talk about that a little bit more? Sean, I think you got A also. No?
I'll give it a stab.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the reason I picked A was because it was a little bit more specific. It was talking about the ruling which applied to the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
Also, So it said, but rather it legally exploits the efficiency of professional photocopying technology. So to me, I thought that it summed up everything that the article was speaking about, like the court's decision and why they made that decision, and what in fact the owner of the coffee shop was doing when he made those packets.
Yeah, exactly. I think even if you do kind of, you want to, it does exactly, yes. Here you can see, like, here you get the main exploitation of professional copying technology. That's the reasoning, the last paragraph. And you know that it is ruled as not illegally. The court decided that did not prevent him from receiving protection under the law. So you definitely are getting information from two different paragraphs, two very vague paragraphs. So I think that's really important too. So nice. Let's try to keep going on. Why don't you guys take a stab at 2, and then we can keep going. Yeah, here, by the way, 23 to 27 is here, right? So this is about copyright law, right? Why is this relevant? It might be a
Can you
little bit
scroll
easier.
back up a little bit, please?
Sure. I can't get both in at the same time.
What
But
test is this? I want to pull it up.
yeah, that would be better. This is 41. This is section 4.
Okay.
And then it's the first passage.
Thank you. I'm gonna pull it up.
That's probably better for you guys if you can. Otherwise, it's here.
The one day I'm on my phone and I can't do it, but that's okay.
Sorry, let me try to make it a little bit smaller. Get like 75. I think that does it, right? I know it's a little small, but I hope you guys can see it properly.
Yes, thank you.
I know we're kind of actually running out of time, so I'm going to kind of just jump in, speed it along a little bit more. But I would kind of like to go through a couple of these questions. Does anyone feel really comfortable trying to tackle this question?
Number two.
Yeah, number 2.
Well, is my answer correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So for number 2, I chose answer E.
Yes.
And the reason why I chose answer E, let's go through A through D.
Yeah.
So I don't think that what we were reading demonstrates why the copy shop owner was exempt from copyright law. It really did not speak about that. Instead, it was just telling us, like what copyright law is, and basically giving us some type of context of what copyright law is.
Yeah. Exactly. So they use this, the court talks about this, the publisher talks about it, and the copy shop owner talks about these
Right.
different arguments. Continue. Go ahead.
Okay, and so for B, it doesn't speak about any charges that were brought about by the publishers. For C, it doesn't talk about a major flaw in reasoning. And for D, it doesn't defend the right to use copyright materials. It's just telling us basically what copyright, the context of copywriting is for this case that we're looking at, which back to E.
Yes. So I think you're definitely absolutely correct for C and D. I just want to bring in a little extra thought for A and B. Actually, I don't think either of these are necessarily incorrect, in that they both are this. Both of these things do happen, and they are both given context because of this. However, it is not just them alone. So because it says it is protected by law primarily to like why it's being told, that's why E is the right answer. So the copy shop owner talks about like the difficulty in it. The publishers are the educational reasons, that protection under copyright law. And publishers, they do use this, right? They say that it hurts their market value. If you go up here, held that they causing the material to the value of the copyright works to diminish, which is the effect of its use on the work's potential market value. So B is definitely mentioned, and then A is also mentioned because of the educational system. So those are the only two things. E is just, it's much more encompassing. Okay, so why don't you guys try 3? I want to kind of push through it. Just give you guys like a moment to at least read through everything, and then we'll talk about it. So if you guys are comfortable with LR, for this one, I would be cautious to tell you, kind of think about it in terms of a must be true or must be false kind of question, where it's, if you don't know the answer, we don't know this to be true, you have to cross it out. Bye, Sean. Thank you for joining us today. I know we're kind of running late a little bit. You might also get kicked out in a moment. So yeah. Okay. Allison, I'm going to ask you to take on this question, and then I'm going to jump right in.
Okay, so I chose C
Yes.
as the answer. So I didn't choose A because I didn't believe that he was really discussing the market value. That wasn't the entire point of his the reason why the suit occurred. So that's why I crossed that out. B I didn't choose B because they said the word always. So publishers are always opposed to the preparation and sale of course packs. I don't think that was also the main issue. The subject was course packs.
Yep.
But not the main issue.
Yeah. So it needs to be provable. So
yeah.
always is a little strong.
Yeah. And then D I didn't choose because let's see. That's kind of strong language. Certain provisions of copyright law need to be rewritten to apply to all possible situations. So
Also, clearly, he wouldn't believe that it needs to be rewritten because the law as it is written is, applies to him. So.
Yeah, and all possible situations go beyond the scope of what we were reading. And E, copy shops make more of a profit. That's just discussing like personal profit rather than the issue at hand.
Yes. Yeah, so why is it C? Do you have a line that
I don't know. I don't know where exactly in the passage I came to this conclusion.
Sure. Yeah, so this one's, first of all, provable language, right? More coffee shops would likely seek permissions. So first of all, you're dealing with provable language, a little bit easier to say is likely, or most likely to agree with. If the process is not so cumbersome or expensive. So in his argument, his reasoning for saying that his problem with this is he argued that the current process for obtaining permissions is time-consuming, cumbersome, and expensive.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't have a way of going back in there, but yes, that makes perfect sense then because it says it. Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, thank you, Imani. Yeah, so why don't we try 4?
See, I can't go back in there. Oh, well.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's not you. I'm on my phone. It's not you. It's me.
Also, so I let you guys know, we're probably going to get kicked out kind of soon, but let me send you my personal one and then I can share from there. You can continue and finish it up, even if we get kicked out. So let me send you my personal Zoom also. This is my meeting if you guys need to, if we do get kicked out.
Where did you put it?
What was that?
You said this is your meeting. Where did you put it?
In our chat. Oh, no, it is sent. Silly me, sorry.
Okay. Okay.
I think it's sent privately to one person. Okay, yeah, so Giovanna, am I pronouncing your name correctly? I hope so.
Yes. Hold on,
Okay.
but I'm okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm trying to. Okay.
Yeah, so why don't you tackle 4?
4, 4, 4. Okay. The information and okay. Which one did I choose? Hold on, I have to remember what I chose. 1 second.
No worries.
I know. Okay. The information in the passage provides the most support for which of the following? Well, one, I did not choose A because it says copy law can be one of the most complex areas of any legal system. We don't know that. It didn't state that. So I automatically crossed that off.
Yeah.
B, it says courts have been inconsistent in their interpretation of certain provisions of copyright law. Once again, we don't know that. C. Oh, and then once again, it talks about the number and kinds of material granted protection under copy law is steadily decreasing. It did not address that either. And D, copyright law is primarily concerned with making published materials available for educational use. A lot of people may choose that because we were dealing with an educational situation, but they didn't make, that was not the argument from the court.
Yes.
D, so D, I chose D, new practices can compel the courts to refine how copyright law is applied. They gave specific background on that. They gave the legal, and that was what we just addressed in the previous statements, but it specifically said, because basically it didn't say specifically, but it was saying about the new technologies. It is, I can't go back in there, but I know they specifically address that in that passage.
Yeah, D is something that is basically what the whole passage is about, right? It is a new practice. He's creating these course packs, and the courts are refining how it is applied because this hadn't shown up before. And so they're saying, yes, the educational law, the educational provision, that shifts how things are done or how they are applying it. Great. Yes. Okay. So why don't you guys try 5? Okay, so this one, careful. This is a role. So I'll read the question to you. Which of the following describes a role most similar to that of professors in the passage who use copy shops to produce course packs? So the professors are working with a copy shop owner, like the one who's getting sued essentially by the publishers to produce the course packs. And yeah, so how let's create a role similar to that. So this is an analogy question.
I have a quick question. These are always a little bit more challenging. How, I guess you would just compare this to the main point.
How do I get to the main point?
No, I said, would you just compare question 5 to like the main point? Like if we were comparing, what am I, like I have that, but then I'm already comparing to the overall passage.
Sure.
Which would
So
that be the main point?
I would not necessarily do this to the main point. It's professors who use copy shops to produce course packs. So it's professors who create the course pack, and then copy shops print out and sell the copies of this to students outside of the university.
So we're just talking about only professors.
Yeah, only the
Who use the
professors.
copy
Like, yeah. So essentially, it's like you want somebody akin to, or like just similar to, the professor, and that's who like the main person
The analogy. Okay.
that you're dealing with. So here it's like professional graphic artist, grocer, choir director, artisan. That's like compared to the professor. The role of the professor is like compared to that. So that's what you're trying to do. I'm gonna give you guys like another like 20 seconds. Cool. And then Shelby, why don't you try this?
I'm not sure if my answer was right or not.
You're right. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay, do you want me to go through all of them or just will I be?
I want you to go through the wrong answers first.
Okay. Okay, well, I didn't like A, I guess, because I don't know why I didn't like A. I just didn't. I don't know. It sells high quality photocopies at its craft market, but it says a legible copy of an old headstone engraving, so I don't know.
So
It's
I would say it's the professor is not creating these course packs by himself. He has the material, but he's not reproducing it himself.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Which is what the artisan is doing. He's doing the copies himself.
Okay. And then for C, a grocer makes several kinds of sandwiches. I mean, that's not really that the grocer is making sandwiches, which is not taking someone else's work necessarily.
Okay.
D.
It's not priced, two different prices also. Okay.
Okay, yes. D. I don't know. I was kind of stuck between B and D, to be honest.
Okay, so why don't you try E if you feel more comfortable getting rid of E.
Okay. A souvenir store in the center of a city sells miniature bronze renditions of a famous bronze sculpture. I don't know. I'm really bad at this.
No, you're good.
I'm awful at finding or explaining why answers are wrong and why they're right, which is not a good thing.
It's
Nina?
okay, you're working on it. It's okay.
Nina?
Yes, go ahead.
For D, it says a professional graphic artist prints reproductions. So once again, he's making a profit. He's doing it specifically to make a profit. He's taking somebody else's work and he's that's on exhibit and making a profit. So that's copyright infringement right there. D, a souvenir store, and he's doing the same thing. They're a souvenir store in the center is selling miniature bronze renditions of a famous bronze sculpture. He's copywriting once again somebody else's work, and then sell. They didn't say I'm sure he's selling it at a profit. Whereas the answer, go ahead. She can go ahead with the answer. I don't want, but those were my reasons for D, not selecting D and E. So go ahead, young lady, since you did.
No, you're killing it.
Oh, okay, okay. And then B is equivalent to the professor, the choir director and the professor. The choir director is just trying to make these pieces available to her choir members. She's not doing it to make a profit.
Educational.
Yeah, so the choir director tapes a selection of another well-known person's piece, and they need that piece in order to practice what it is that they're going to practice on. And then she sends it to a recording studio to reproduce in a sellable package for the use of a choir. But she's not trying to sell it to the church members or anything. She's doing it for the choir so they will be able to practice. I mean, I shouldn't use the word practice, but she's using it for her choir members. She's not trying to sell it to the general public to make a profit.
Exactly. Perfect.
So I equate the choir members to the students.
Yes. Does anyone have questions about this? Imani, do you have questions about this?
No, I don't have any questions. As
You feel
Giovanna
like
and
the answers
Shelby were
were
both going through it. Yes, I think the number one issue was not reading the question, I guess, all the way. And then number two, the correct answer choice, I should have saw sins. And then that would have kind of gave me the indication that, you know, they go together, professor.
Okay.
Sending it to the photocopy man and just as the choir director is sending it. So it's like that same type of relationship, but
And
closely
then,
reading things is important.
but the big thing was, if you notice, the other people were actually selling it for a profit, and the choir director wasn't selling it for a profit, and neither were the professors.
Yes.
That was the whole argument. I mean, that's what I saw as the whole argument.
Also, the professor isn't making money off this at all.
Right.
That's
right.
the most important. The copy
Right.
shop owner is the one who's making money.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so try 6. This is a strengthened question, not super common, but I think you guys can do it. You guys are familiar with logical reasoning. I know you guys have did strengthened and weakened questions, I think, just with Nicole, so it's a good practice one. So, by the way, as you guys are tackling this, what is the publisher's position in this case? You want to think of that first, right? That is your conclusion that you need to strengthen.
I was just asking myself that. I just want to make sure.
So actually, yes.
No, I just want to make sure that I have it right. The publisher, is he the one that's making the course packs? No.
The
He's
publisher is
against the
who's
course
suing.
packs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you hear, so we can go down to what the publisher is saying in bringing suit. This is what the publishers are saying.
Okay. Thank you.
What you need. It's your conclusion here. Does that help you guys?
Yes. Thank you.
Can you move it? Okay, yeah.
And then I can move it down here. Okay, so let's talk about 6 for a second. What is the conclusion? What do you need to do? Giovanna, why don't you start? Let's actually go back up here for a moment. What do we need to do?
What do we need to do? We
Yeah.
need to back up basically why the publishers are complaining or to have their suit against the copyright owners, copy shop owners.
Okay, so what do we need to strengthen?
We need to strengthen the fact that they said they're losing money.
Yes, losing money.
Yes.
That is perfect. So the potential value of the copyrighted works of scholarship to diminish. That's
Yes.
what their main idea.
The value of the
The
property.
value. So that's
Yes.
what their main point in suing is because of this. So
Yes.
whatever the answer needs to do, it needs to be such that the publishers are losing money, or
Yes.
the copyrighted works have lost value. So that's really important that we need to get to that versus anything else. Okay, so why don't we go through the answers?
Oh, me?
We can have
Or somebody else? Somebody else. Okay.
Allison, why don't you try? Yeah.
Okay, so after reading, I initially chose B, but after going back up and reading, I realized that I ended up choosing D. So I didn't choose A because they didn't mention anything about having large enrollments or anything about the profit due to the enrollment. And it ended up canceling out B because, let's see, that doesn't necessarily strengthen the position because that would just indicate what the copy shop owner did. And then C, that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the publisher's position. It would just highlight the revenue generated by the copy shop sales, which has nothing to do with it either. And then
But I don't need to be smelling it all. My whole house smells up.
the publisher
I mean, it smells really bad.
of authors to verify.
You need to find someplace else to smoke it. I don't know. But it stinks. It smells like a
Yeah, the last one would have. No, the last one would have. What's it called? That would have done the exact opposite, I think, because verify their claims that the copy shop owners had not obtained permission.
So we already know that. That's like already established.
Yeah.
So that doesn't strengthen or weaken. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
For E.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I chose D.
Yeah.
Because it had something to do with the profit of the, I guess, the scholarship work. I believe that's what they said.
Yeah.
And so if there's a decrease in the sale of the actual book, then that probably means because the course packs are being reproduced.
Okay.
Via
Yeah.
copy.
Exactly. So I would say we can get rid of B and E because it is outside the scope of what the idea that it is important that the publishers are saying that it decreases the value of the copyrighted work. So it needs to be about value and profit. So B and E don't discuss that at all. And then I would say that for A and C, just to kind of ensure that everyone is super clear on this, and you did great job, Allison. So
Thank you.
the revenue generated by the copy shop. So for C, even if his sale has risen significantly, that has nothing to do with like the value of the copyrighted work itself. Just that he is making more money off of the course packs. That has no impact on like the other books. And then similarly, A is about him making a lot more money, but it's not talking about reducing the price or the value for others, for the publishers of those books. So that's what matters. So it needs to be like that comparison needs to be reduced, not that the copy shop owner is making more money, but that they're making less. Yeah, that's how you can get rid of A and C also. Does that help? I think someone was also struggling with, I think Gina, you had a trouble with A. Do you get that now?
Yeah, it makes sense now. I was stuck between A and D, but after Allison had already started talking about it, I was like, well, I don't want to switch my answer, but I kind of switched it in my head to D already.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
So what was the answer?
It
And
was,
then
it was
oh.
D.
Okay, and I apologize, guys. I didn't realize my microphone was open.
No, it's okay. Yeah, so thank you all for coming. I hope this gives you like a little bit more direction with some of these question types, and you did great. So
That was fun.
yeah,
Thank you.
I think so too.